The Energy Department says that there's likely to be a drop in fuel prices next month. While the figure is yet to be confirmed, the department says it's likely to be a rather sizable drop following consecutive months of increases in recent months. The expected drop then in fuel prices next month has been attributed to a drop in Brent Crude oil costs, as well as a rand-dollar exchange rate that's moving in our favor. Let's talk about all of this with the Automobile Association's spokesperson, Layton. Layton, welcome back to Daytime Update. So you estimate, I was reading, that we could see the cost of petrol go down by around R1 a litre?
Yeah, I think based on the figures, Tim Makila, that came through from yesterday, it may be closer to around R1.20. When we look at the numbers, they are actually very positive at the moment. But we've got to kind of temper that with the fact that we're going to add 75 cents back to the fuel price from the general fuel levy. The R1.50 reduction, the concession that government gave in March was halved for June. It's going to be taken away totally going into August. And despite the fact that that money is coming back to that tax, we still expect to see quite significant decreases to the fuel price. So, yes, I mean, we concur with the DMRE. I think the outlook is very positive, and certainly we're looking forward to seeing those numbers coming through tomorrow.
120, if it's confirmed, feels like a drop in the ocean when you consider that we've seen increases in the last few months of about R2 for a litre of petrol and diesel.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at it in a broader context, in Makila, from January to June, we've seen really significant increases to the prices of fuel. People are paying, anywhere in the region of R5 more a litre now than they were 6 months ago. So yes, I mean, it might not seem as significant and substantial as the increases that we've seen, but I think the silver lining is that it's not another increase. It's a decrease, and it's a sizable decrease in the sense of R1 is not to be sniffed at. So, for us, and I think for consumers, it will be some relief. It may be light relief to some. Obviously, I think the problems with the fuel prices increasing over the past couple of months have already filtered into the economy, and we're seeing the impacts on that on inflation, and we've seen interest rates increasing. So, I mean, it has been a bit gloomy up until this point. But let's be positive, and let's look at the fact that this is a decrease, and, it is going to help some consumers at least, deal more effectively with their budget. So, yes, it is to be welcome.
Some of it has to do, of course, with this week's drop in crude oil prices. In fact, the DMRE says it was down around 10% at some point this week, the 25th, I think, which was on Monday. How sustainable is that?
Yeah, it's a difficult question to answer. I mean, how sustainable is the decrease? It's at the mercy of so many different factors, and it changes on a daily basis. To give a forecast of what's going to happen in a week is near impossible. Even further than that is really looking into a crystal ball. The decrease that we are going to see is 100% a result of that decrease to the international oil prices. Unfortunately, it's being offset a little bit by weakness in the rand against the US dollar. We've seen that kind of filter in, and the rand is beginning to strengthen again. So hopefully, if that is a continuing trend, then that will filter through into August, and it may provide more relief going forward. I think for the moment, though, we're riding a bit of a crest in terms of the decrease to the oil prices. Let's see that continue into the future.
So about deregulation, that was an announcement made recently as well. To what extent do you think that's going to be helpful? Because as things stand, it's not deregulation of all fuel, is it?
No, and it's not total deregulation either. It's just a cap on the price of fuel, which means, unlike diesel, retailers can't sell it for more than what the wholesale price is, which currently happens in a total deregulated environment such as diesel. Look, I think our view on this is that there are pros and cons to it. The fuel retailers will tell you that it is going to hit certain retailers very hard. Those who aren't able to match the decreased prices that some of their competitors are offering. Our view is that anything that is going to benefit the consumer at the end of the day is something that we would be very happy about and that we would welcome. I think we need to see exactly what the plan is and what the machinations are in terms of the fuel price cap that government is mooting. And obviously there's going to be a lot of people who give their comments on that. Amongst those, I'm sure, will be the fuel retailers who would give their 2 cents on that. Let's see how that all plays out. But yes, I mean, anything that's going to lighten the load on consumers something the AA would welcome.
Well, fuel retailers, like all businesses, are profit-driven, and you can't help but think, why would they want to sell at the lowest possible price when you consider that they could perhaps make more in an environment where, in fact, we're seeing an escalation in fuel prices? Of course, there is this exception that we're now looking ahead to our first drop in months.
Yeah, I think we need to be realistic about this, Tembakile. You know, the basic fuel price is driven by factors that are really outside of the control of the government. We're looking at international oil prices, petroleum prices, and the Rand-US dollar exchange rate, which is determined by the market. So there is very little wiggle room for the government to act in that. You know, they're looking for solutions to a problem that for us lies very deeply rooted in the actual structure of the fuel price. So again, you know, without sounding like a broken record, we think that review of the fuel price is absolutely essential, and it becomes more essential with every adjustment. So while we are going to see a decrease going into August, it may not last. I'm not saying it's not going to, but it may not, and we may see increases going further on. So what we would like to see is a situation where we unpack all of those elements of the fuel price, and based on that unpacking, we can then determine whether there are elements that we can manipulate to our advantage going forward. You know, again, deregulation is a very tricky subject to talk about in 30 seconds, and it has its pros and cons. Certainly, we'd like to see a situation where all consumers benefit. And yes, I mean, you're absolutely correct. The retailers are at the mercy of the market, and, you know, a lot of people are pointing fingers saying, well, you know, they've got to take that.
Automobile Association spokesperson Layton, always good to speak to you. Thank you.